13 candidates want to join Palo Alto's Planning Commission, but there are only 2 open spots. City Council must appoint the new members from a myriad of candidates, among whom housing advocates and former mayors.
Is it usual that there are so many people vying for the same spot?
No. There are years where the city wonders, how can we find someone to apply?
The Planning and Transportation Commission looks at new development projects and transportation issues. It's an advisory body that provides recommendations to City Council.
A lot of people say it's the most important advisory body in council. I don't know if that's true, but it is the one that has a lot of impact. A building will be here for 50 odd years or more, so their advice is super important in terms of what our city looks like, how it functions, how people get around, and all those kind of things.
The new commissioners could have a lasting impact on the future looks of Palo Alto. Who are the candidates, and why do they want to be on a planning commission? I interviewed 7 of the 13 applicants about their views for the city. In downtown Palo Alto, I asked candidate and former mayor Bern Beacom about his position on the slow growth versus denser housing movement.
I think we are at a pragmatic maximum of what we can have. At one point, I calculated that to satisfy the state's desire for housing, we would have to flatten all of downtown North and put up 35 units per acre. That'll never happen. And if any council were to attempt to do that, they'd be turned out of office.
Brian Hammercheck has been a Palo Alton all his life. He recently moved to a new home on Millville Avenue.
Well, I guess when I grew up in Palo Alto, there was a lot more diversity in the type of people living here. And that was kind of what made it a really special place, because Palo Alto's always had a lot of wealthy people, but there used to be a lot greater diversity in that regard. And I think that having affordable housing kind of helps maintain that diversity, which I think is pretty important.
I interviewed Rebecca Eisenberg in her house on Waverly Street, where she lives with her family.
I think what's really missing is a focus on coalition building and reaching agreement. For example, at the last commission meeting, the first 90 minutes was spent evaluating whether a code should be changed so that a tenant should be able to build a sun deck. 90 minutes of discussion over a sun deck.
Kelsey Baines works as a therapist at Palo Alto VA Hospital. She recently got evicted from her home on Ruthven Avenue. We walked through her new neighborhood, University South, where she pointed out that a lot of houses don't comply with zoning regulations.
It's interesting, if you walk down Forest, you see these beautiful old buildings that violate the zoning regulations on housing, and then you walk down the street and you see the new developments that conform to the current zoning regulations, and they are fewer units, they're exceedingly expensive. There's this one new building down the street that the rents range from $7,000 to $35,000 for the penthouse. And that was built under the current zoning regulation. So the zoning that we have doesn't allow for housing that would be for people at the lower end of the market.
Michelle Krause is a resident of the President Hotel, a historic building on University Avenue that will be turned into an actual hotel. She thinks her perspective as a long-time renter is unique.
And I've rented my whole time here. And I don't think that many people have that perspective. What does it mean to rent? So those are the things I want to really dig into.
When I met Google employee Tom Siegel in the Heritage Park, he told me the most important issue for him is commissioners trying to push their own agendas.
I think that the Planning Commission there's been a lot of tension, and I think they've taken on a little bit of a role that I don't think should fall on the Commission, so be very activist. And I think the role should be much more sort of going back to helping to prepare decision, making sure there's consistent and efficient decision making by the Council, and supporting them rather than having its own agenda.
I spoke with architect and applicant Elaine Wang in the park in front of her house in downtown North. When Wang co-founded housing advocacy group Palo Alto Forward, people said she was the founder of an extremist organization. But things have changed, and the time is now right to put new plans in place, she told me. On November 5, City Council decides which candidates it wants to interview. The interviews take place on November 27th, and Council makes a final decision early December.